How you doing, Nick? Corey? My name is Mike Baccio, and I'm going to give you several monologues from The View from the Bridge, Alferie's character. I've never done this play. However, I was offered it at one time. I did do a scene for Lee Strasberg of Eddie and Catherine when I was younger. And then I remember Dustin Hoffman wanted me to do Marco, and I did read for Marco with Udo Grossbart. I didn't get the role. But so I am kind of familiar. I know the lines pretty well with Alferie, so let me give you an example of what I think I can do with this character. The opening scene, or the narration. You wouldn't know it, but something amusing had just happened. Did you see how uneasily they nod to me? Well, that's because I'm a lawyer in this neighborhood. To meet a lawyer or a priest on the street is unlucky. We all thought of in connection with disasters, and they really don't want to get too close. I often think that behind that suspicious little nod of theirs lies 3,000 years of distrust. A lawyer means the law. And in Sicily, before their fathers came, the law was not such a friendly idea since the Greeks were beaten. I'm inclined to notice the runes and things. Perhaps it's because I was born in Italy. I only came here when I was 25 years old, and in those days Al Capone, the greatest Carthaginian of all, was learning his trade on these very pavements. And Frankie Yell, the gangster from Brooklyn, was cut precisely in half by a machine gun on the corner of Union Street, 2 blocks from here. Oh yeah, there were many justly shot by unjust men. Justice is very important here. This is Red Hook, not Sicily. This is the slum that faces the bay on the seaward side of the Brooklyn Bridge. This is the gullet of New York swallowing the tonnage of the world. And now we are quite civilized and quite American. We settle for half, and I like it better. I no longer keep a pistol in my filing cabinet. And my practice, forget about it. It's entirely unromantic. My wife, she's warned me, and so are my friends. They tell me that the people in this neighborhood lack elegance, glamour. They got no class. They got varnish. After all, who have I worked for all these years? Longshoremen, their wives, fathers, grandfathers, compensation cases, family squabbles, the petty problems of the poor. And yet, every few years, there is a case, like when I was listening, to this one family's troubles. The flat area in my office suddenly washes in the green scent of the sea, and the dust from this air is blown away, and the thought comes that in some seasons here, in Calabria perhaps, or on the cliffs of Syracuse, there is another lawyer dressed quite differently, heard the same case, and sat there, as powerless as I, and watched it run its bloody course. This one man's name was Eddie Carbone, a longshoreman, a nice guy working the docks from the Brooklyn Bridge to the breakwaters where the open sea begins. Oh yeah. He was a good man, as he had to be, in a life that was hard and even. Worked on the docks when there was work. He brought home his paycheck, and he lived. And on that day, toward 10 o'clock that evening, after they had eaten, the cousins came. Who could ever know what can be discovered? Eddie Carbone never expected to have a destiny. A man works hard, raises a family. He goes bowling, he eats, he lives and he dies. And as the weeks passed by, there was a future. There was a trouble that would not go away. It was at this time that I first met him. I had represented his father on an accident case some years before, and I was acquainted with the family in a casual way. I remember him now when he walked through my doorway. His eyes were like tunnels. My first thought was he had committed a crime, then I saw it was only a passion that moved through his body like a stranger. I don't understand what I can do for you. Is there a question of the law somewhere? Because there is nothing illegal about a girl falling in love with an immigrant. Well, first of all, you don't know that. Eddie, I want you to listen to me. You know, sometimes God mixes up the people. We all love somebody, the wife, the kids. Everybody's got somebody that he loves, Gavita. But sometimes there's too much, you know. There is too much and it goes where it mustn't. A man works hard. He brings up a child. Sometimes it's a niece, sometimes even a daughter. And he never realizes, but throughout the years, there is too much love for the daughter. There is too much love for the niece. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Yes, but these things must end. That's all. The child has to grow up and go away, and the man must learn to forget. Because after all, Eddie, what other way can it end? You did your job, and now it's her life. Let it go, that's my advice. Will you do that? Because there's no law, Eddie. Make up your mind to it. The law is not interested in this. There are times when you want to spread an alarm, but nothing has happened. I knew right there and then I could have finished the whole story that afternoon. It wasn't as though there was some mystery to unravel. I saw every step coming, step after step, like a dark figure walking down a hall toward a certain door. I knew where he was heading for, and I knew where it was going to end. And I sat here many afternoons asking myself, why? Being an intelligent man, I was so powerless to stop it. I even went to some old lady in the neighborhood, a very wise old woman, and I told her. And she only nodded and said, pray for him. And so I waited here. On the 23rd day of that December, a case of Scotch whiskey slipped through a net while it was being unloaded, as a case of Scotch whiskey is inclined to do on the 23rd of December on Pier 41. There was no snow, but it was cold. His wife was out shopping. Marco was still at work. The boy hadn't been hired that day. And then Catherine later told me it was the first time they had been alone in the house. On December the 27th, I saw him next. On December the 27th, I saw him next. I normally go home well before 6. But on that day, I sat around, looked out the window at the bay, and when I saw him walking through the doorway, I knew why I had waited. You know, if I seem to be telling you this like a dream, it was that way. Several moments arrived in the course of the 2 talks we had when it occurred to me how almost transfixed I become to feel. I looked in his eyes more than I listened. In fact, I can hardly remember the conversation, but I'll never forget how dark the room became when he looked at me. His eyes were like tunnels. I kept on wanting to call the police, but nothing had happened. Nothing at all had really happened. Did she actually say she was going to marry him? This is my last word, Eddie. Take it or not, that's up to you. Morally, legally, you have no rights. You cannot stop it. She's a free agent. I heard what you told me, and I'm telling you what the answer is. Not only telling you, but I'm warning you. The law is nature. The law is only a way for which has a right to happen. And when the law is wrong, it's because it's unnatural. And in this case, it is natural. And the river will drown you if you buck it now. Let her go and bless her. Somebody had to come for her any sooner or later. You won't have a friend in the world. Even those who understand you will turn against you. And the ones that feel the same will despise you. Put it out of your mind. Most of the time, we settle for half. And I like it better. But the truth is holy, even as I know what he did was wrong. And his death, useless. I tremble, for I confess there is something perversely pure that calls to me for his memory. Not purely good, but of himself pure. For he allowed himself to be wholly known, and for this I think I love him more than all my sensible clients. And yet, it is better to be, it's better to settle for half, it must be. And now, I mourn him, I admit, with a certain alarm. That's it, guys.